Live on a Tuesday. Welcome back inside the vault for the final day of the month of March. It's the 31st here in 2026. I'm Bobby Trossett. Sarah Ellison is on spring break. She will be back on Monday. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Primary Residential Mortgage and our new friends at ZipRecruiter. And before I go any further, let me tell you about them real quick before we dive into the content, of which I have plenty. I'll tell you what, I've only ever made one hire as a businessman through 4 years or so, and I could just tell he was the right person for the job right out of the gate. We just celebrated 1 year, by the way, of employment, and that's Brendan Molson, who's our extraordinary editor, who's been doing great stuff for us. And if you are hiring like Sarah and I did a year ago, you want a candidate who's passionate about your role, but you can't get that insight from a resume unless you post your job on ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly, and ZipRecruiter has a new feature that shows you the most interested qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. Find candidates who really want your job on ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. You can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Great to be with you guys today on this Tuesday. If you could like the video on your way in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member this offseason, as Corey has done, becoming the latest to take part in the VAULTRON family. You can also give membership through the join feature as well. And I've got a lot to get to because I just spent my last hour cutting up specific snippets of Jesse Minter's press conference earlier this morning from Phoenix, Arizona at the NFL's annual league meeting. And I have 5 different discoveries, findings, learnings, observations, what have you, in terms of what I felt like I took away from Jesse Minter's press conference today. Sashi Brown, Ravens team president, spoke yesterday as well. I'll have a couple snippets that were relevant from that. And then in just over 20 minutes time, Jason Smith from Huddle It Up Films will drop by. We're going to specifically talk about pre-draft topics, Ravens potential prospects that he's been taking a look at, all of which will be a courtesy of his pre-draft Ravens-centric big board. We have him on every single year. I'm looking forward to that conversation coming up in about 20 minutes from right now. But without further ado, finding number 1, discovery number 1, if you will, is the Lamar Jackson offseason messaging that continues. The offseason program begins next week. That is on April 6th. It's a Monday. We're 6 days out. And of course, this will continue to be a discussion, knowing how new it is, the new regime, the new staff, the new head coach at the top. Here are all the questions related to Lamar Jackson that Jesse Minter fielded earlier today from Phoenix.
We're excited about the offseason program. I know Lamar's excited. I think he is excited about some of the changes. We've had a lot of good connection points, but the offseason program is voluntary, and we're excited to get a chance to work with all the guys. Whoever wants to show up, we feel confident that a lot of guys will be there. And then again, like I've said this before, it's our job to make it an environment and an opportunity for them to really feel like they're getting a lot out of it. And so I'm excited about that process, the way the staff's put in the work to be ready to make it a worthwhile off-season program. And so just look forward to getting all the guys there. Yeah, again, like a lot of that stuff probably keep between Lamar and I, but I just think that he's excited for us to connect, for us to build a relationship, for us to trust each other, for us to be able to talk through things, for us to take his input on things, but also, being willing to talk through it and not just, go with something. And so I'm just excited about him. You don't become the level of player that he has without a great work ethic, without being a great teammate, without being a leader. And so just excited for him to continue to grow and evolve and become an even better version of Lamar. I think Lamar is really excited about what we have going on. I think he's excited about opportunities in the offseason program. And again, we'll see on April 6th we'll see who all walks in the door.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Before I give you my thoughts, team president Sashi Brown on this topic as it relates to Lamar.
Lamar's, at a point in his career where he's seen so much, so we value his opinion tremendously. He knows and has shaped and led our organization, and so it was great to have his involvement. You guys talked to Jess about his interaction with him through his process. Same with Eric. He and Lamar have been in contact, and so it's nice to have that engagement. And I think there's just a tremendous amount of respect for what he brings to the table and what we're going to be able to do together. I'll defer as you guys know, no different than when Dick was here, I'll defer all the contract discussions out of respect for Lamar, but also the organization, to Eric, and he'll be able to answer those.
Discovery number one on the Lamar Jackson front. The messaging has remained the same for the most part throughout this entire offseason to date, given the various media availabilities. And aside from Declan Doyle's comments that were taken out of context by national media as it relates to OTAs, he never specifically mentioned Lamar during that one snippet that went viral. It's been the same. The offseason program begins on April 6th. And to Jesse's point there, in the end, we'll see. He'll see. The entire organization will see who walks through those doors. If Lamar continues his same approach that he's taken in past seasons, when there's a new regime, when there's a new offensive play caller, when there's a new scheme in part to be learned, he'll be there. Will he have 100% attendance? Probably not. And if that's the case, so be it. He's earned the right at this point in his career, 8 seasons, 3 of which have been MVP caliber, to handle his offseason the way that he chooses and sees fit. And the rest of the chips will fall as they may. Discovery number one, the messaging has not changed. And in some ways, perhaps there's some tiptoeing going on in terms of just the careful nature that these stakeholders, in this case, Sashi Brown, team president, head coach Jesse Minter, have chosen to use their words. Number 2, and that's how it goes with Lamar, because like it or not, he is a lightning rod. That's just how it goes in the Lamar Jackson world. Discovery number 2, all things offensive line, Dwayne Ledford, and a specific question that Jeff Zaribek, my co-host on The Collective, asked directly. I'll break it all down snip by snip. But first, the offensive line as it's currently constructed.
We added John. I think there's a lot of time between now and September to continue to add pieces. Multitude of ways that you can still add pieces with, still free agency, the draft, obviously. And so, I know Ozzy's always said it, like it's a long time between now and the early part of September when you're playing. And so super confident in the group that we have in place right now. Super confident that those guys will work really hard this offseason, that we'll put together a good offensive line, and that we'll continue to add pieces throughout the roster that we feel will help us become the best team we can be. Yeah, I love Coach Ledford. He was actually, I want to say, maybe the first or second coach hired. So I have a lot of confidence in him. And he just, I think he has a really strong way of connecting with those guys, of getting them to play a certain way, a certain style, with a certain play demeanor. And so, yeah, we, like anything, I think the guys are excited to connect with him. He's already built a lot of relationships with the guys returning. And then, again, there's a lot of time between now and then to add more pieces, but I have a lot of confidence in him to get our offensive line right.
What about the elephant in the room, Tyler Linderbaum's successor, and where they might go from a center perspective? In comes Jay-Z.
Again, you just said it at the beginning, like depth charts right now, it's pretty irrelevant. We're excited about a couple of the guys that we've added. We're excited about some of the guys on the roster. We're going to let that sort itself out through competition, all the way into training camp. We're going to use the offseason program not to be overly competitive, but really just to teach our offense and our defense and our special teams and get reps at the things that we need to get reps at. And then the real competition will be in training camp, and I'm sure by then we'll have even more pieces added into that competition.
Discovery number 2. The depth chart obviously is a long ways away from being fully finalized. And I'll throw this on more of the prediction side of things than an observation or a discovery, but I don't think the starting center is currently on this roster as presently constructed. Right now, you've got an undrafted free agent from a couple of years ago out of Maryland in Corey Bullock. You've got Danny Pinter, a veteran that you brought in the non-primary wave of free agency from Indianapolis, and Danny Pinter. You've brought in John Simpson, who right now on the unofficial depth chart on ESPN.com would be your starting right guard. We know that Voorhees and Jones, meaning Emery, the second-year player, rising second-year player, I should say, out of LSU, are on the left guard side of things. And then you've got other undrafted rookies and the veteran and Javon Gwynn, who comes over from Atlanta. That's sort of the Dwayne Ledford pipeline right there. So discovery number 2, they got a lot of work to do still at this point, and they have the time and the ample time to do so along the offensive line. Discovery number 3, Nnamdi Madubuike. Jesse Minter had this to say about the big interior defensive line stud.
I mean, I think you're always, for everything, I think you always try to have a plan in case something happens. I know that he's in a great place mentally. He's doing a lot of stuff. That's still a kind of a to-be-determined thing, I would say. And so we certainly, as an organization, you certainly have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, all the way down the line. And so we'll be excited whichever way that goes.
Because is there optimism there, would you say, with this situation?
I'll leave that up to him. Love him as a player, love him as a person. I've seen some of the videos of him doing things. I know he just feels good being back, like working out and doing things like that. But I'll leave all that up to him.
Do you know when there might be a decision made?
I don't know that there's like a hard line timeline on that.
That right there was spliced together, multiple answers of his as it in regards to the Nnamdi Madubuike uncertainty with his future. Similar messaging, to no one's surprise, from team president Sashi Brown yesterday.
Be too early to opine or express any optimism or pessimism. Don't read into it one way or the other. He's going to have to get himself to a point, here where, he and Eric are, I'm sure, going to have plenty of conversation. Until that time, and even when that time comes, I'll let Eric comment. But I don't take it as pessimism or optimism. It's just got to go through the process.
Discovery number 3, there is a plan in place, perhaps in part from a rotational standpoint. DJ Reader's visit that made the transaction wire has something to do with that from last week. You know that Travis Jones has been extended handsomely in season and is a heck of a player. So discovery number 3, the messaging as it relates to Nnamdi Madubuike continues to be a touchy, sensitive topic. They're being very careful for different reasons than they're being careful when it comes to Lamar's involvement, expected involvement, that is, for the offseason program, the extension talk, so on and so forth, for different reasons. They're being very careful moving forward as it relates to Nnamdi Madubuike. Nnamdi, sort of anything but, right? He's posting on social media. He's throwing up cryptic tweets within the last couple months. And based on what I feel like I can report on, and as I did in Indianapolis at the Combine, I do not believe retirement to be in the cards. And I think number 92 is going to be back in a Ravens uniform coming up in 2026. Whether that's week 1, whether that's right out of the gate, whether that's in the opening month, I have no idea from a timetable standpoint. But clearly, the Ravens have a plan, as Jesse Minter would say. He wouldn't divulge what that specific plan is details-wise, but that will continue to follow them as the offseason program ramps up. And make no mistake about it, come April 6th, aside from Lamar, 1A, 1B, right, is where's Nnamdi Madubuike at, and what will his involvement be, if anything at all, throughout the offseason program as it gets ramped up next week. Discovery number 4, the second-year player out of Marshall, Mike Green. He will now be opposite Trey Hendrickson, who's just a year removed from, as we all know, posting back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons respectively in Cincinnati. Jesse's thoughts on Mike,
I got a lot of confidence in Mike Green. Loved him coming out. He was high on our board there. And so I was joking with him. We had brought him in, I think, for a 30 visit last year. And so it's meant to be now that we're together. And so very excited. And I think now he'll have a guy in the room in Trey that he can really learn from, that he can learn some of the nuances of rushing the passer. Those guys will work well together. Oftentimes when you have a guy on one side, it creates even more opportunities for the guy on the other side. And so Mike should be very excited because I feel like he's going to have a lot of opportunities to impact the game. And we're excited about him. And just like anybody, I think your first year to your second year is often a big jump. And just understanding, the level that it takes, the preparation that it takes. And so excited about Mike.
While we're on the defense discussion, by the way, Jesse also spoke at length about Jalen Hawkins, safety number 3, at least on paper.
Jalen, obviously he had a great year. Super Bowl all the way there. Basically was a full-time starter the whole season. Played, I think, over 85% of the snaps for New England. And so, again, like that safety position for us, we have a chess piece in Kyle. And so when you have a couple other guys there, similar to what they did last year when they brought in Alohi, that allows you to do a lot of different things with Kyle. And so Jalen's a great player. I think him and Malachi will operate really well together, and I think that'll allow us to do a lot of cool things with Kyle. And I was telling Kyle the other day, like those 3 guys on the field together, it's going to be fun to come up with things to utilize those 3 guys.
Discovery number 4 from Jesse Minter's press conference earlier today at the NFL annual league meeting in Phoenix, Arizona, is that there's a familiarity there with Mike during his time getting to know him pre-draft this time last year in what became his final season as the Chargers defensive coordinator. Mike will now have his chance to flourish under a Jesse Minter system, just as Odafe Owe did down the second half stretch after being acquired at the trade deadline and then going to get paid in the form of a $100 million contract just south of Baltimore in DC. So discovery number 4, there's a lot of confidence there. And that, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Jesse didn't use that word early and often throughout his 30 minutes in today's sit down. He used that a lot. And I'm about to show you why he used it with another player that maybe some of you out there don't have as much confidence on the special team side of things. But that was something that he used to describe where he's at with the second-year player, Adam Marshall, who's got a tremendous amount of upside and perhaps some untapped potential coming off his rookie season in Baltimore. Discovery number 4, Mike Green's going to eat, or at least have a chance to eat and eat well, playing opposite Trey Hendrickson within the confines of this new scheme designed up by Jesse Minter. And discovery number 5, enter Tyler Loop, the second-year kicker out of Arizona.
Confidence in Loop. He had a great rookie year, and obviously you're judged by what happens, but we have a lot of confidence in him. He's having a great offseason. He's putting in a lot of time trying to improve, like everybody, and so I have a lot of confidence in him going forward.
So is the plan to bring competition in, or is he going to be the?
I mean, truthfully, we'll see how it goes. I think you could certainly add another guy there to have another guy in training camp, but again, just have a lot of confidence in him going forward.
The Tyler Loop discussion, again, that confidence word being used early and often throughout the press conference. I think we all can sit here and agree that it can't hurt to bring in competition or a body, whatever you want to refer to as someone who could very well be brought in at some point this offseason or perhaps come the summer months for a player that, look, his season ended in a sour taste for this entire fan base. It ended in heartbreak. It ended in pure frustration. With all that said, I think when you look at his statistics overall from Tyler Loop, it was a successful rookie season for him. Whether or not he is in their plans moving forward, you don't know. But Randy Brown was retained for a reason. He was believed to have cast a wide net all across the country an offseason ago and landed on the kicker on day 3 out of Arizona. That's significant draft capital to just go ahead and waive a player or, cut a player a year later, especially after I'm of the belief that I'm not willing to just simply evaluate him for a situation that he didn't find himself in with everything on the line the entire season up until when the season was literally on the line. That's not to say that, look, I think competition breeds excellence, and go ahead and bring someone in the way that they did with the undrafted kid. And of course, I believe is it Hoyland? I believe it was Hoyland from last summer. So we'll see what they choose to do from a special teams perspective. Anthony Levine Sr. will now lead that room. But discovery number 5, right? Moral of the story, non-committal here in terms of what the plan is for rounding out that room come 90-man roster finalizing. So that's my main takeaway. It's that he can say that he is instilling confidence and expressing confidence all he wants, but he was non-committal in terms of the way that room moves forward. You heard the follow-up there asked by Jamison Hensley of ESPN. Will you potentially bring in competition? Truthfully, we'll see how it goes. You could certainly add another guy to have another guy in training camp, but again, have a lot of confidence in him going forward. So again, discovery number 5, it's up in the air. Perhaps Tyler's job to lose, given what they drafted him to do and what he did well. Was it good enough in the end? No. And was his final moment, his lasting impression of his rookie year, something that you want to hang your hat on as a fan or a part of the organization? No. But I don't think that fully writes his story. I don't think his book is fully complete after year 1 in the NFL. We'll see how they choose to handle things coming up in the months ahead. Appreciate you guys for being with me on this Tuesday. If you haven't already noticed, Sarah is on vacation. She'll be back on Monday. Jason Smith from Huddle It Up Films joins me in just a couple minutes here to talk a little bit about his Ravens-centric big board. We're pre-draft. We're under a month out. Can't wait to pick his brain on a number of things. And by the way, I'm saving the wide receiver portion of Jesse Minter's press conference for my segment with Jason, because it'll allow us to talk about some of the prospects that he's looking at specifically. That's both first round, second round, and then on. And it'll also maybe more importantly, give us a chance to have a quick little conversation and react to what Jesse Minter said about Rashad Bateman, who, of course, is coming off, I think what we all know is a disappointing season after a breakout 2024. Corey Doman has become a channel member. Welcome to official VAULTRON status, Corey. Great to have you, brother. Thanks for the support. And Femi, the Super Bowl winning Raven, joining us via Super Chat. He writes, to dispel fan conspiracy theories, April 6th is the start of weightlifting and conditioning. Few seasoned vets will attend. No defense or offense installation at all. The OTAs are system installation. LJ will attend those. Assume nothing. Good context there from Fem in terms of what actually takes place next week. And if that is indeed the case, which of course it more than likely is, knowing that Fem's got a great pulse on this, then don't be surprised if Lamar handles his business with his own regiment in South Florida, as he tends to do this time of year. Thanks for the context, Fem. Appreciate you being here, brother. And appreciate all of you guys for being with us on this Tuesday. If you could like the video on your way in, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. We're coming up on that 30,000 subscription milestone. Hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or a gift-giving membership. And oh, by the way, it's the last day to make sure you are entered in, if you're interested in doing so, to this month's $100 gift card giveaway, which can be used directly at the Vault's merch store. That's thevaultpod.com/shop. You guys know the drill by now. Click on the link that we have included in the top of the show notes. For those of you watching in real time, it's pinned in the live chat as well. It'll bring you to this page right now that you see on the screen. It's at PRMI Mid-Atlantic, their most recent Instagram post. Comment on it to enter with the hashtag Vault. Tag 3 friends you'd buy a house with. Follow them at PRMI Mid-Atlantic. Subscribe to us if you don't already with your notifications on, and take the extra mile by scanning the QR code that you see on the screen. You can also copy and paste that Google form link, fill it out real quick, and bang, we'll easily be able to reach you should you win. And tomorrow I will have the winner officially announced right here inside the vault. And I'm looking forward to that coming up tomorrow at 12 noon. And by the way, if you're getting a tax refund from the IRS this year, what if you used it to buy a home instead of spending it? Your tax refund could help you cover a down payment, closing costs, paying off debt to boost buying power, maybe even your moving expenses. Your refund isn't just extra cash. It could be your first step towards building long-term wealth. Closing costs and fees may still apply. If you have questions, go check out our friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. Give them a call, 410-663-2222. That'll get you directly in touch with the Towson branch in Maryland. But if you're not in Baltimore, if you're not in Maryland, give them a call anyway. They'll make sure that you get in touch with the region that you need to. 410-663-2222. I appreciate them for being here. Let's get to a couple super chats before we bring on the main man himself so we can get into his pre-Ravens draft big board. Something this guy literally does not sleep in order to implement. Looking forward to it. Brian says, it's my birthday today. Thank you for the hard work you and Sarah both do. Appreciate you guys. Brian Imhoff, happy birthday, my man. You going to let us know the number or what? Are you strategically not telling us the number? Regardless, hope you have a great day, man, and thank you for the super chat. Ooh, let's see. The Ambitious Cap is celebrating 9 months of channel membership. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence, stay blessed, and always prosper, everyone. That's some Dre Dog energy right there from the Ambitious Cap. Thank you, Cap, and thank you for blessing us on this pre-Easter Tuesday. Over 800 concurrents and counting on a busy Tuesday. Jesse Minter just wrapped up his press conference from the NFL's annual league meeting. And now I'm pleased to be joined by my friend and the owner of Huddle It Up Films in the YouTube space, and somebody who has been grinding around the clock right now for his Ravens-centric pre-draft big board. Oh, is it big? All right. Yes, it is. Jason from Huddle It Up Films. Great to be back with you, brother. What's going on, man?
What is going on, Bobby? And Sarah's on vacation. Is she ducking me? Can you believe it? I remember 2 years ago, we met the night after or the day after the Key Bridge got taken out by that ship, and it was just you and I that day. So I have to get on Sarah for not being here for the big board.
I'll never forget that, and I appreciate you for being here. We'll have to get on her for sure. She's on spring break with the kids, so she's got a decent excuse. But as always, I'm about to go put this into straight up big mode here to bring it up for you. And let's start here before I bring it up, to be quite honest with you. Let's start with Jesse Minter's thoughts on Rashad Bateman and the entire wide receiver room. Because as you know, Eric DeCosta, since taking over in 2019, has not been afraid to take swings at that position in the first round. He did it right out of the gate with Marquise Hollywood Brown, then a couple years ago with Bateman, and then, of course, with Zay Flowers. Maybe Zay ends up being the first true homegrown wide receiver to get a nice paycheck at some point in the coming months or years ahead. But I'm curious what your thoughts are, one, with the room, two, with Jesse's comments that I'm about to play, and then three, as we naturally transition to your big board, what potential prospects you think might best fit what this team needs right now. Here's Jesse. We'll talk about it on the other side.
Confidence in Rashad Bateman. You look at what he's done in his career. He's been a really productive player. You know, he's coming off of a year, like a lot of guys. Sometimes when you're coming off of a year that you're like, he's disappointed in how the year went, and so I know he's hungry. You know, he's ready to get back to what he is. So a lot of confidence in him, and a lot of confidence in that whole room, just to continue to grow. Opportunities for young players. Really excited about them, and I think they'll be a big part of our offense. And then Zay's proven to be, I think, one of the best players in the league at his position. Love Zay. He's like, man, what you want in a guy when he walks in the room. He lights up the room. He's got leadership skills. He brings everybody with him. So love Zay, and I'm very excited about that room overall.
Okay, Jason. So obviously disappointing season for Rashad, as Jesse noted there. Production was down. It was a really just difficult season for the entire offensive operation for a multitude of reasons. But given the contract that he signed, and when you look at the market, he could be looked at as a major bargain if he can find shades of what he was able to accomplish in 2024. Your thoughts on Jesse's comments, and how do you gauge your confidence as it relates to Bateman moving forward into 26?
I think for the most part, Coach Minter's press conference was very vanilla, very businesslike. It wasn't a lot to gain. I enjoyed your 5 takeaways. I thought that they were perfect. But Coach Minter, a lot of coach speak, which is expected. And with Rashad, I think that we've seen it. We've seen what a healthy, productive Rashad Bateman looks like. And as you mentioned, if he performs like that on the contract that he has, that is quite a bargain. So, I think Bateman's one of the more polarizing, players on the team from what I gather in the feedback. Some people believe in him. Some people write him off. But obviously the talent is there with Rashad. The Ravens have a couple of openings in the receiver room. You have Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and then, of course, LaJohntay Wester, and a guy I'm really excited about, Devontae Walker, ready to take the next step. But that's only 4. Tylan Wallace is elsewhere in Cleveland. DeAndre Hopkins still unsigned. And the Ravens will have an opportunity pretty much in every round, Bobby. That's the way it goes these days. The best athletes in high school are training at wide receiver. Back in the day, they were running backs. You look at the top 100 in California, it's just loaded with wide receivers. Same for the other big states. And it's no different this year. I think, in the end, I only have 25 receivers listed on the board. That's the most of any position. But I think around 40 will get drafted. Daniel Jeremiah had said that he imagines 15 to 20 drafted in the first 3 rounds. And, from high grades on wide receivers, if you go to the positional rankings tab there, you can just see how stacked the wide receivers are, all the way down. The first 3 color tiers, they go down pretty deep. So the Ravens will have an opportunity from the first round until the bell rings in the draft to add talent to that room. And really, I think beauty is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to Rashad Bateman. I think he very well could have a big year. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that Todd Monken really loves Zay Flowers. Really loves Zay Flowers. On film, you could tell that Zay Flowers and the tight end on his side, those were the first 2 reads on most pass plays. To the point where fans were saying, hey, we're spamming Zay Flowers with touches. We're giving him the ball a lot. And I think that there is some truth to that. We saw DeAndre Hopkins come in and run some slants, run some, some back shoulder throws when he was in Bateman's spot. So I think Bateman still has the talent, Bobby, but the Ravens are definitely going to want to add to that wide receiver room.
All right. Well, here it is. Without further ado, as you guys have probably gathered, this is Jason's official Raven-centric big board. It is currently pinned to your X account. We will link it accordingly, as we always do as well. You can be found in the Twitter sphere at Huddle It Up Films. Same thing in the YouTube space as well. So before we move on from wide receiver, as you look at this, like you said, it's kind of a lengthy list, especially when you compare it positionally against everything else here in the positional rankings tab. Who's the best fit? And maybe plural, who are your favorite fits for what you feel like the Ravens need at that position?
Well, I think they do need some size. I think they could use a possession receiver, considering everything, all the talk around Bateman. They also have a decision to make on Zay Flowers coming up not too long from now, whether they pick up the 5th-year option on him. But, possession receivers, size receivers, they come in all different shapes and sizes. My positional favorite, you can see with the stars there, positional favorites are players that I think will fit with the Ravens and players that I like better than the consensus. So you're going to find those players higher on my board, both in the positional rankings and on the big board. They're going to be higher on my board than on other boards. Jeremy Bernard is that guy for me in the wide receiver room. He can be an option as soon as round 2. And the reason I like him is just the polish, the size, what he does before and after the catch, a very professional receiver. Bobby, if you're a highlight watcher and that type of thing, and that's how you scout your receivers, then Jeremy Bernard is not going to stand out to you. There are receivers who are faster, more explosive, have more highlight catches. Bernard does make the highlight catches, by the way, but he is a safety blanket. He works well over the middle. He works well on the types of routes that Lamar loves to throw. He's got some size to him. He's got some yak to him. Just a very pro feel to Jeremy Bernard's game. And that's what I love most about him in the wide receiver room. And then if you're looking in the later rounds, there are a number of gems that come to mind. Ted Hurst, a smaller school guy, Bryce Lance, a smaller school guy, Skylar Bell, a smaller school guy out of UConn. So again, it's deep. The Ravens, I think, have needs elsewhere. Maybe adding a wide receiver isn't a primary option for them when they need help on both sides of the line, edge rusher, but they can have value. I think one of the reasons I'm big on drafting Vega Ioane, if he's there in the first round, is to free up the Ravens in that second round, where, as you can see, wide receiver is going to be deep, edge rusher is going to be deep, have a dozen edge rushers with the second round grade or above. So you want to be able to free yourself up to take a valuable player and not be pigeonholed into trying to plug holes as the draft goes on.
Well, you and I were texting about this earlier in sort of our pre-show plan, so I might as well just get this out of the way immediately. And I think I know your answer. You would be comfortable, based on how the board unfolds, spending a 14th overall pick on a guy like Vega.
Definitely. And I think it's twofold. I think a lot of people have gotten into you don't want to draft a guard at 14 just because you need a guard. Vega Ioane is not a charity case. He is more than deserving of the 14th pick. And you look last year, Tyler Booker went 12th overall. I think Vega is a better prospect than Tyler Booker. I have him right in between. Like the last prospect I can remember grading that high is Quentin Nelson out of the Colts. Now, Ioane is not to that level. I don't think he's not a Quentin Nelson type player, but I have him every bit as good, if not better, than Tyler Booker, who went 12th overall. You're looking at someone with great feet, great power, technical ability. Bobby, Vega Ioane hasn't given up a sack per PFF in the last 2 seasons. Top competition, obviously, at Penn State. Keeps his elbows in tight. Remember the problems we had last year, Bobby, with the hey, give me a hug style of blocking? That is not Vega. Hands are in, or elbows are in tight, hands punch, and then in the run game, vicious. You see them line Vega up on the wing, put him in motion, and have him do execute fullback type blocks, tight end type blocks, and he can reach and get safeties and linebackers and pick them off in space. That gives you an idea of what kind of athlete Vega Ioane is. So not just saying draft him because we need a guard. He is more than worthy of the 14th pick. And Bobby, it seems like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but a month or so ago, it wasn't long ago, where you kept seeing Vega mocked in the 20s and people picking him up. Now I'm almost worried that he's picking up so much steam that he might not be there at 14 as people realize, they dig into his tape and realize what type of a player. But man, when I started watching him, usually I just watch 2 or 3 games of each prospect to get a feel for him before the combine. I couldn't stop watching Vega. I watched every bit of tape that I had on him.
Jason, listen to how Jesse handled a direct question by Jeff Zaribek on center. Listen to this.
Again, you just said it at the beginning, like depth charts right now, it's pretty irrelevant. We're excited about a couple of the guys that we've added. We're excited about some of the guys on the roster. We're going to let that sort itself out through competition, all the way into training camp. We're going to use the offseason program not to be overly competitive, but really just to teach our offense and our defense and our special teams and get reps at the things that we need to get reps at. And then the real competition will be in training camp, and I'm sure by then we'll have even more pieces added into that competition.
Let me ask you this. If you're a betting man, is the starting center in 2026 a rookie?
I think it very well could be. I would say over 50%. I think that the monkey wrench that got thrown into, in my mind, is that the centers that we signed, Brian Pinter, Javon Gwynn, they are backups. And we gave Pinter backup center money, Bobby, like $2.25 million or something like that, to say, hey, you're going to be the backup center. Where does that leave Corey Bullock? So I have 2 lines of thinking here. I think it's obvious. Number one, they saw all the practice tape of Corey Bullock, the preseason tape of Corey Bullock, and Declan Doyle decided, you know what? That's my guy. We can work with him. Dwayne Ledford was hired before Declan Doyle, running that outside zone scheme. Maybe he decided Corey Bullock is the guy. We can work with that. We'll sign Brian Pinter, and we're good. The other thought is just the exact opposite, where they took a look at Corey Bullock and said, look, he's not a fit for outside zone. let's bring in Brian Pinter and let's draft one of these rookies at center.
Danny Pinter. Yep.
Danny Pinter. I must have him confused with somebody else. Yeah. So we have Pinter as the backup. And we're going to draft one of these rookies and break them in.
That to me is fascinating. The first of those two scenarios that you unfold, because look, Corey got some live bullets in the preseason last year because Tyler was dealing with something. I can't remember if it was a shoulder or a calf or lower body. Can't remember what it was specifically, but Tyler was dealing with something, and that gave him a chance to showcase what he was all about, right? And so is this sort of the dark horse conversation that maybe not many are having because there isn't a ton of tape, so to speak, running against the ones high volume over his first couple of years in the league as an undrafted guy out of Maryland who transferred there. There is that local feel. You appreciate the story that this could blossom into, but I'm with you, man. Like, I don't want to sit here and rule that out. But I think we all know that there is going to be a competition. That's what Jesse just straight up said. And speaking of competition, is there a competition to be had for John Simpson? Or is he a shoo-in starter right now in your mind?
I think that he was paid a contract in which he could be a starter or a backup. Like, it's a nice contract, one he's deserving of. But I don't think that if you had a more talented player in there where you say, hey, man, we're paying John Simpson so much money, we're so committed to him, he's got to start. Like, I don't see it as that type of contract. So maybe if you draft a guard in this draft, maybe it's one of those situations in which, Simpson starts and Simpson is a really good run blocker and the rookie takes over at midseason, if he's ready. So, it could be either one. I'm a big believer in Emory Jones as well. But I think that this offensive line as a whole, Bobby, is the one spot that the Ravens, maybe it's just from us being scarred, but it's the one spot that I want to see the Ravens be extra aggressive. Like if Linderbaum was back and we had that in our back pocket, we say, all right, we have a good center, we have a good left tackle, we have a good right tackle, we have Emory Jones, we have John Simpson. And I think people would feel a lot better, myself included, about the status of this offensive line. Now we have a question at center. We have a question at guard spots. Where are people going to line up? So it's something that I would like to see the Ravens get ultra aggressive on draft day. And again, it's one of the reasons Ioane is as high as he is on the board. You see him at number 8 there. That first tier of dark green are true first round grades, Bobby. Remember last year it was just Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. We only had 2 in that range. This year there are 6 because Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love, with their workouts combined with their tape, they deserve to be true first-round grades. They have earned that in this draft. So that'll help the Ravens a little bit when it comes to pick 14. But, man, it's kind of a tough spot this year.
You can't help but see that while it's not the shade of green that your first 6 are, there is a tight end that's in that next shade of green that I had a chance to watch in person in Indy last month. And, my God, what a treat Kenyon Sadiq is on the field. That is a need that when you get lost in the trenches, and I get it, you should want to feel lost in the trenches in terms of evaluating and really processing how the Ravens can get better on both sides of the ball in those departments after what happened last year, particularly given the wear and tear on Lamar, given the issues they were having at guard, center, guard. But when you do get lost in that, maybe you lose sight of the fact that they have needs, plural, at tight end. And I wonder how they handle them over the course of the 3 days a month from now, Jason, because they've done it before, and I expect them to retool again. Yes, you bring in Durham Smythe, who could potentially take over for some of what Charlie Kohler was asked to do within the confines of an offense that's no longer in Baltimore. It will be the Declan Doyle-led offense. There is familiarity there. Durham was in Chicago last year as a Bear. Prior to that, he spent his entire career. Funny enough, he's actually Lamar's draft class. So he's been around for a while, all of which was in Miami prior to last year with Declan in Chicago. How do they handle the position? How would you handle the position? And talk to me about Sadiq.
Sadiq is great. And, the physical skills obviously jump off the map. I would have loved to have been with you in Indy to see him run that 4.39 that he ran. His muscles have muscles. His arm muscles have muscles. His leg muscles have extra muscles. He's just built like that. And the underrated part of Sadiq, Bobby, is he's an excellent blocker. So you're not just talking about some offensive weapon that, as a finesse type player. We've seen him block in line. We've seen him block on the move. He's got a want to that as well. It's not just physical, it's a mentality. So Kenyon Sadiq, I mean, if you're down for drafting a tight end at 14, that's your guy. And, the Ravens may be in a position where they can't address other, there's a need there, but other more premium type positions like the top edge rusher, the top wide receiver, the flashier positions that, Vega's gone, can't address the offensive line, where they're in a position where Kenyon Sadiq is the best player available, and it's at a need at tight end, as you mentioned. Later on in the draft, there are other options at tight end. I think it's a good tight end draft. You see the color orange. Those are players who will either go on day 2, so rounds 2 or 3, or if they make it to the ones that make it to day 3 will be value picks. So from the orange on up are players that we're truly targeting. That's what the board's made of. There are 127 players on the board this year in the orange or above. Last year, there were 113. So that gives you an idea of the depth this year in rounds 2 through 4, say. It's a little bit meatier than last year. But love Jelson Jolie, love Max Clare. Eli Stowers might not be the right guy for when, for the price. He's probably going to go in the second round. That might be a little early for him, pick 45. Michael Trigg, Joe Royer, Lake McCree. All these guys do different stuff. But I do think, Bobby, that, Durham Smythe gives a security blanket from the blocking perspective. He knows Declan Doyle's system. He can execute fullback type blocks. So we don't need a fullback anymore and can do it all. But yeah, your guy Sadiq, definitely an intriguing guy. And I have him all the way up at number 11 on this Raven-centric board.
Whoever picks him will have to be comfortable with the drop rate. Kind of reared its ugly head for him at times throughout his career there. But again, just based on what you're talking about, the traits, what he performed in the underwear Olympics. And oh, by the way, some of that just freakish athleticism that he put on at Oregon begs the question, when's it going to be? And just how high might he hear his name called? And just to remind everyone, it will be somewhat of a quiet, just in terms of volume, first couple nights of the draft. It's 14 overall, of course, that newfound pick. We all know why. And then on day 2, 45th, to Jason's point there a second ago, in round 2, and 80th in round 3. And then it'll be an onslaught, as it tends to be in recent seasons, day 3, which is a problem, Jason, because I am in a wedding that day back in Baltimore for my Loyola College roommate. And I don't know how I'm going to properly pay attention and get ready for my speech when they're picking every 2 minutes, but that's neither here nor there. The defensive side of the ball, Jason, you heard, I'm sure you've heard just about every answer there is to hear as it relates to Nnamdi Madubuike throughout the course of this offseason. Today was no exception. Yesterday was no exception. Both Sashi and Jesse choosing to continue the offseason trend of what's become a whole lot of nothing. They're being very careful with their words, but Nnamdi himself has started to come out of hibernation with various posts on social media, including some intense conditioning and workout exercises, knowing that there's a level of uncertainty, knowing that there is a plan in place, according to Jesse Minter. While he wouldn't divulge it, you got to think that that is, in some cases, going to be handled through the draft. What do you like on that side of the ball?
There are some players that fit, and I think whether Nnamdi comes back or not, you want another player who can line up at 3 tech and rush the passer. So, your nose tackles are your 0 to 2 techs. And we saw, Travis Jones have to play 3 tech last year. Him and John Jenkins were the 2 starting defensive tackles. John Jenkins was basically playing nose tackle to keep the lingo simple. So we saw Travis Jones get an extended look at 3 tech last year. And, as you would expect, he's a good pass rusher, but not like a guy that you can count on for sacks. He's going to continue to develop that area. So, when they brought in DJ Reader, I was a little underwhelmed with that, Bobby, because that's another big body. And when you consider what we have on the roster, Travis Jones, 340 plus, John Jenkins, who knows, CJ Okoye, another big body. So we basically have 3 nose tackles at our disposal, Bobby. And that's what DJ Reader is. So when I'm looking at the big board, I'm looking at guys who can line up over the shoulder of the guard at 3 tech and get after the passer. Caleb Banks, injury concerns with his foot. He's had some injury concerns. That's why he has the red cross next to his name. Freakish player. Peter Woods, the second defensive tackle, not the most consistent guy. He's a 3 tech. And then you see more of him. Grayson Halton, the first guy in the purple there, 3 tech. McClellan can play that some. But as you know, Bobby, finding defensive tackles who are good against the run and can rush the passer is extremely rare. So if you're going to get some, it's either going to be early in the draft or you take more of a dart throw later. Rashad Benny, by the way, starred player, my positional favorite out of Michigan. I think that he kind of got lost in the shuffle on that Michigan defense, but you can find some really good examples of him with his bend, his dip, really strong player against the run as well, had a really good Senior Bowl. You could see his pass rushing skills. I think he was asked to do a lot of dirty work at Michigan, and that's why he's my positional favorite. I think the upside is there for him to be a good 3 tech in the league.
Dream scenario on your way out here for how things fall in their lap at 14 and then 45.
Sure, Vegiuane at 14. That's got to be the plan, I think, because if not, I think that what you would be. I want to address Fano for a moment. You can see I have tackle, guard, center. He played right tackle at Utah, and Spencer Fano, a good player. I had this conversation on my stream Wednesday night with Chris Aguilera, who was with Coach Evans a lot. Very Patrick McCary type in his what you can expect from him at an NFL level. In other words, right tackle or center is probably his best positions. He probably doesn't have the physical makeup, the length to be a left tackle in this league. And at guard, play strength isn't his thing. So, I faded Fano to 10th on my board. May end up putting Sadiq ahead of him before this thing's all done because I just don't see the fit. Like, do you want to use the 14th pick on someone that's a college tackle that you're converting to center? Like, that just doesn't sound like the best use of the 14th pick to me. Of course, opinions will range on him. So 14th, Vegiuane would be great if we can get him. If not, maybe a trade back scenario would be great so we can get a couple of players in that yellow range, maybe somebody from the green stops. And then at 45, my dream scenario would be get Zion Young, who I have all the way up at 24th on the board. Looking at strong edge rushers, Bobby, someone to complement what we already have. We got Trey Hendrickson for the next 4 years. We got Mike Green for the next 3 years. I think Mike Green was asked to do a lot of dirty work last year, Bobby. You saw him starting on a 3-4 defense, playing the run like a maniac. But ideally, you want Mike Green to be able to attack the quarterback. Tavius is in his last year. This is free agency season. So what we really need is somebody with a physical skill set on that strong side to be able to demolish tight ends, to be able to hold their own against right tackles at the point of attack. And someone, Bobby, who can take a direct path to the quarterback. Trey Hendrickson, Mike Green, they can use the speed rush to get around, burn the quarter. You don't want to do that over right tackles against mobile quarterbacks like Mahomes, Burrow, even Burrow, Josh Allen, who can really beat you on the run. So I'm looking at edge rushers here at the second round, Bobby. Zion Young would be a perfect fit. He can go right through your right tackle, beat him up all game, be physical against the run, productive player, harass quarterback. So, yeah, if we can get both sides of the line taken care of on the first 2 rounds, that would be great.
You heard it here first. That's your dream scenario at 14 and 45. You can hear a lot more of Jason, from Jason at Huddle It Up Films on YouTube. We got to get this number pretty soon to 5K. I feel like that can be done before, to be quite honest with you. I think that has to be done before the draft. So why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go refresh like this so I can get an updated. Here we go. We're going to throw this link into the chat. And if you guys found something, you got something out of Jason's analysis here the last 30 minutes or so, I just dropped his link in there. Go check it out on YouTube, Huddle It Up Films. You also have, notably on Twitter, and I'll throw this X account in here as well, your Raven-centric big board that we just spent all that time on, pinned. And again, you can be found there at Huddle It Up Films. Just drop that link into the live chat. You are the man. I look forward to doing this again when it's you, me, and Sarah at full capacity. And I know this is your time of year. April 1st is tomorrow, so it's your month of the year. I always appreciate your time, brother. It's great to see you.
Bobby, thanks so much for having me on. And, the last thing I wanted to remind everybody is Bobby may be using the big board this year. Not sure, but it will be updated on draft night, taking those players off the board as they go. And so you can see who's left at each position. You can see who's left on the big board. So I look forward to doing that every year. I just genuinely love the process. And hey, our best players in franchise history, from the Hall of Famers to the guys in the Ring of Honor, we draft those guys, Bobby. Free agency is fun, but you really need your rookies to be productive if you want to get where the Ravens hope to go next year. We're going to need some production out of these guys.
It's a great crutch for us. We use it on an annual basis. You know that. And this won't be the last time that you drop inside the vault between now and then. So look forward to it. Best of luck with the rest of your prep as we get closer and closer to this thing. And have a great week, brother. Thank you for your time.
You too. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks to the Voltrons.
Later, man. Jason from Huddle It Up Films, friend of the program, longtime friend of the program. And again, would love for you guys to go check out his work, support his work. Man, he in the film community, what a treat. What a luxury to have within this Ravens space. So again, it is Huddle It Up Films in the YouTube space. Let's get him to that 5K subscription count number if we can. It's deserved, and it's been earned, man. He just grinds and grinds and grinds. And again, he can be found in the X or Twitter space as well at Huddle It Up Films. I appreciate you guys for being with me today. Sarah is on spring break, as you probably have gathered by now. She'll be back on Monday, and I look forward to continuing the conversation all week long. I did get a super chat a little while ago. Wildlife Wale from the tropics of St. Croix hits me with one. He says, Steve Smith put a video out on Ted Hurst. He is a gem. Now, where did Jason have Ted on his big board? Let's go ahead to the positional rankings over here. This is why I love what Jason does. Ted Hurst, where is he? Where is Ted? Okay, he is in his purple category. And purple is a predicted day 2 selection for Jason Smith. Again, Ted Hurst, the 6'4", 206-pound wide receiver out of Georgia State. First team all Sun Belt honoree in 25. He was second team in 24. And again, that possession type 50-50 ball winning guy, 6'4", big body, go up and get it. Perhaps the Ravens find value in him come the weekend, maybe even on Friday. Well, they will have the 45th overall selection and then one in the 3rd as well at 80 overall. Thanks, Wale. Great to see you, brother. Or excuse me. Now I know your name. Amawale, right? Amawale. Hopefully I get that correct. You and Femi are Yoruba. Is it Yoruba? Yoruba. I think it's Yoruba. Anyway, see, I am very locked in and focused on what we learned last week culturally. Hopefully I got that right. Appreciate you guys. Quick hits. Thanks for being with me today. Chandler Martin. You remember him? He was a member of the Ravens practice squad this past season. Unfortunately for Chandler, he tore his ACL in week 13. Played in 3 games as a special teams linebacker. But again, made the practice squad last year. He will be signing a 2-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. So best wishes to him. Super Bowl. What's this? Super Bowl 63, right? Because Super Bowl 60 this past season was in San Francisco. 61 is in LA. 62 is in Atlanta. And now it's back to Vegas. Back to Vegas in 2029. Allegiant Stadium will have Super Bowl 63. And I'm not surprised at all because Vegas is a blossoming, budding sports town. Truly is. That's that. By the way, King Lee says Baltimore in 2030. Sashi Brown did say that they are in active conversations about bringing a future NFL draft to Baltimore. Take that for what you will. But that was part of team president Sashi Brown's press conference yesterday. He did not divulge any kind of information on jersey or uniform releases. But based on the way things are going there and with their trailer that they released on Sunday, perhaps something's in the works in the weeks, months ahead. This is always fun. And this will be the first time that I'm looking at it. So let's all do it together. Mark Peterman, Associated Press, has the annual NFL head coach photo. Why don't we get some observations here? First of all, who are the guys that have beef? Who are the two head coaches? Is it Liam Cohen? Who does Liam Cohen, and why am I blanking on who he has beef with? It's Liam Cohen and someone else. Maybe you'll help me out here. Is it Saleh? Robert Saleh, maybe? Because now they're going to be playing each other twice a year. I feel like there's an exchange that they've had that went viral in recent seasons. But anyway, here are your 32. John Harbaugh's front and center. To our left, his right is Mike Macdonald. Look at those two. Jim, of course, to our right, John's left. The Harbaugh boys right next to each other. Several first-year head coaches as well. Todd Monken, by the way, apparently he and Sean McVay are not photographed here because they thought that there was an originally scheduled time that ended up being changed. So you'll notice there is no Todd Monken in this photo, and there is no Sean McVay in this photo, which is hilarious that Todd's first, and hopefully not only, but his first chance at the annual NFL head coach photo at the league meeting, he doesn't get that opportunity. So that's tough for him. Who's on the hottest seat amongst this group? Aaron Glenn, probably. I would think Aaron Glenn. That's what I would say. And I always like to see what the live chat's all about. I know I can't zoom in on it, unfortunately. And we haven't even talked about where Jesse finds himself. Jesse is second in from the left on the bottom row, sitting between Aaron and, is that Halfley? Looks like Halfley, Miami-wise. Can I name all of these head coaches? How about I put myself on the spot and attempt to do so? Maybe you guys can help me out along the way. I'm going to put myself on the spot here. Okay. I'll start on, where should I start? Bottom row left. Aaron Glenn, Jets. Jesse Minter, Ravens. Jeff Halfley, Dolphins. Mike Vrabel, Patriots. Sean Payton, I was going to say Saints. Sean Payton, Broncos. Mike Macdonald, Seahawks. John Harbaugh, Giants. Jim Harbaugh, Chargers. These two have this similar name. It's Matt LaFleur, Packers, not to be confused with his younger brother, Mike LaFleur, the new Cardinals head coach. Joe Brady, Bills. Kevin Stefanski, Falcons. Ben Johnson, Bears. Who's the last one in that row? I have no idea who that is. What the? Hold on. I'll come back to that in a second. All right. Top right now. I'm continuing up to the front row. I'm stumped on my first one. Who the hell is that? Nick Sirianni, Eagles. Dan Quinn, Commanders. Robert Saleh, Titans. Kyle Shanahan, 49ers. Andy Reid, Chiefs. Zach Taylor, Bengals. Brian Schottenheimer, Cowboys. Dan Campbell, Lions. Who's next to Dan Campbell? Hold on. Kevin O'Connell, Vikings. Oh, I'm starting to struggle here. Far left, Liam Cohen, Jaguars. Mike McCarthy, Steelers. Dave Canales, Carolina. Oh, this is struggle city for me. Who's next to Dave Canales? I was on a roll here. Anyway, D'Amico Ryans is next there. Texans. So right now, I don't know. And again, there's no Sean McVay and no Todd Monken. So let's be clear there. Why does that look like? Why does the guy that's to the right of Dave Canales from our view And the left, but his actual left, why does that look like a clone of Zach Taylor? The shorter, pudgier version. Did I get Zach correct? Is Zach between Schottenheimer and Andy on the right-hand side top? And who the hell is the bottom right? All right, I got to go to the live chat because I need to phone a friend. Bottom right, sitting down. Don't know. Shorter, heavier looking guy in between Kevin O'Connell and Dan Campbell. I need help. And then between D'Amico and Canales. Who is that? Oh, Clint Kubiak. Thank you. Clint Kubiak. I just finally looked over. Okay, thank you. Todd Bowles is in the middle. Thank you to Steve. Dave Canales is far right. And what about in between Canales and, or excuse me, so Clint Kubiak, Todd Bowles have been figured out. Thank you to Steve. But who's between D'Amico and Canales? Or excuse me, D'Amico and... All right, I've misspoke here. I understand that Canales is top left between McCarthy and the mystery. And Clint, meaning Kubiak, is bottom right. Todd Bowles is in the middle. So the last mystery man is the guy between Canales and D'Amico. Who is he? Kellen Moore. Former quarterback. Kellen Moore. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Rude Boy 2 Rude says, I've been saying Ted Hurst in the second round for a month. Lock in, Bobby. Okay, Rude Boy 2 Rude. Keeping receipts. We'll see if the Ravens get him. 6'4", 206. Be a nice target, certainly. And Steve is helping me out here. Todd Bowles and Kellen Moore was struggle city for me. Not bad, though, percentage-wise, right? Do I even dare look at the live chat, depending on how you guys are... Oh, yeah, where's... So I struggled with Clint. I struggled with Kellen. I struggled with Todd Bowles initially. Wait, have we figured out who's between D'Amico and Kevin O'Connell? Have we figured that out? Do we have a final? Anyway, that was something I just decided to do off the cuff. I feel like it's a passing grade. You guys will tell me it's not, but I feel like that's a passing grade. What are you going to do? The annual general manager photo. Eric Takac. I'm not going to do these. I'm definitely not. I'll spare you guys these. But Eric Takac front and center right there, with his legs crossed, sunglasses on, white button down, front and center. Eric Takac, one of the longer tenured general managers. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and didn't hate it. This was wild. Jimmy Haslam, Browns owner, a couple quotes that certainly garnered a lot of attention. Quote, we share our fans' frustration. We're 1,000% committed to getting this right. What we've done the last few years is unacceptable. And oh, by the way, he believes it's possible for Deshaun Watson to go from, quote, a swing and a miss to a home run if he starts this year. I've been talking about this a long time when we chatter about AFC North related content. I would not be surprised if Deshaun Watson is the Browns starter coming up in 26. I'm sure there's going to be a level of rust. And maybe, just maybe, he won't be able to find his Deshaun Watson skill set of old, where he was one of the top quarterbacks in the entire league. But it would not surprise me if Deshaun Watson is back and starting for the Cleveland Browns coming up this fall. And that will do it on this Tuesday. Appreciate you guys, as always, for spending some time with me. Thanks to Jason Smith for the continued support of the program and for dropping by to share his thoughts on his Ravens-centric big board. Guys, if you haven't already done so, would love for you to join the Discord server. It's a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. I think you guys know the drill by now. It is free to join, and it's a great way to essentially continue an extension of what a lot of times is this draft, or I should say this live chat. Typically, there's a lot of commentary that just flows right back into the Discord out of the live chat. So just drop that link in there. We're coming up on 1,300 members. Would love for you to join. Thanks to Primary Residential Mortgage for supporting the program. This is your last day, guys. Please go ahead and enter in if you haven't already to this month's giveaway. I will randomly announce the winner coming up tomorrow, and the winner takes home a $100 gift card to our merch line at thevaultpod.com/shop. Thank you to ZipRecruiter for sponsoring us throughout this campaign in the spring as well. Guys, if you could like the video on your way out, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership this offseason. And I will catch up with you tomorrow, Wednesday, noon Eastern, for our usual regularly scheduled Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. And if not before, I will be catching you before. Join the collective tonight. Cole, Jeff, and myself rejoin you tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern. And depending on the news cycle, maybe I'll be live as well later on this afternoon. Appreciate you guys, as always, for the support. Be on the lookout for a 4 o'clock drop, as always, in our afternoon slot where we'll repurpose the best 15, 20 minutes in our best of section. Thanks to all of you guys. And wish Sarah, if you haven't already, a wonderful spring break with her kids. VAULTRONs will catch up with you. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us